Hello and welcome to Yoga in Your Living Room. My name is Brenton and I'm here today with Ollie.
Hi.
And the name of today's class is Hip Reboot. So if you are somebody who experiences pain or you know things are just not working the way that they should in the lower part of the body, this class will be, I hope, informative and also extremely helpful in getting things to work and feel better. And that includes the low back. So if that sounds like something you could use some help with, go ahead, roll out your yoga mat, and we'll get started on our backs. All right, if you take class with me a lot, you probably know that I like to start in bridge pose. We will start there again today, but let's do it in a slightly different way than normal. Go ahead and separate your feet wider than your hips and turn the toes open. So now the legs are in, the hips are in external rotation, and they are abducted, they are pulled away from the middle of the body. Those two things are the main job of the glutes, your big booty muscles. So this means that now when you lift your pelvis up off the ground, your glutes automatically are a little bit more fired up than if you were to just take a standard bridge with the legs pointing forward. So let's actually take the pelvis down to the ground again. Press down with the feet. Use the hamstrings on the back of the leg and peel the butt up off the ground. Take some slow, deep breaths in and out through your nose, way low into the belly as you feel the big booty muscles turn on. So our hips are able to do 6 different things. These big booty muscles help with all of it because they're the biggest muscle in the body and they really help support and stabilize the pelvis from the back. But there's 3 movements that they're really designed to do, and that's the 3 movements they're doing here. External rotation, abduction, and then when you lifted your hips, now you're extending the hips. So take the pelvis back down to the floor, and you feel how that deepens the hip crease on the front of the body when the pelvis is down. It's like where the underwear crease is on the front. Now push down, scoop the pelvis up off the ground, and aim to flatten that area, flattening out the front hip creases. And that is extension of the hip joint. That's a really important movement to be able to do. Let's do that one more time. Take the pelvis down to the ground. We really want to get those booty muscles firing. And then press down with your feet. Scoop the butt up off the ground. Really push through the feet. Activate through the hamstring muscle. And use your big booty muscles to support the pelvis in place. Good job. Take the hips back down to the floor. And let's let the knees rest in on each other here. As you do that, start to rock your pelvis forward and backward as if you were doing cat-cow movements. See if there's any places that tend to get a little bit stuck or places that feel a little bit too loose even, like they move a lot all the time and they could use some stability. Now rest your pelvis where your frontal hip bones are about level with the floor. And if you don't know what that is, you can lay your hands across them, doing a couple of cat-cow movements, and then feeling where the hands sort of level off. And that's more or less a neutral pelvis. Take the hands, slide them up to the lowest part of your rib cage, and pull that part of your rib cage down towards the floor. So what you're doing there is you're activating the front of your trunk. Now, when you did that, though, did it kind of crease the back of your neck and kind of lift your chest up? See if you can open the shoulders into the floor and pull your head back so the back of your neck gets really long. And now keep your hands here, maybe thread the fingers together. And this is a physical representation of what you wish your abdominals could do. Now we're going to lift one knee up over the hip, the other knee up over the hip. And imagine that we're sort of hugging a block between the thighs, just to feel that this is an active position Feel tissue around your buttocks hugging. And now you can hold this or begin to take the left heel down towards the floor and then lift the knee back up. Taking the left heel down towards the floor and lifting it back up. Try to stay in a controlled range of motion. So if you feel like you're falling, do less of it. Really work hard on keeping the whole torso nice and stable. We spent a lot of time creating the shape of the torso, and so now you want to really hold it there because now you know you're working your hips. So giving the hips a reboot, you can feel all this other stuff has to learn how to get involved because it's all part of one body. Good job. Go ahead and release and relax into whatever feels comfy and cozy to you. Maybe bending the knees into the belly and giving yourself a little roll left to right. Really, truly, whatever feels good. The next place we'll go is to stretch out the feet. So to do that, go ahead, come on up to a seated position. We're going to turn forward onto hands and knees and tuck the toes under with the heels lifting straight up. You know, you can tuck your toes under and splay your heels open or have the ankle bones kind of resting on each other. You get it so that the heels point straight up. And now begin to walk yourself back towards an upright position. You don't need to come off your hands. Your hands can stay on the ground if the stretch feels too intense. And really push down through the feet. If you want, you can pull your pinky toe more underneath, and that'll lengthen out the long edge of the foot a little bit more. And breathe here nice and calmly, nice and quietly. And stretching out the feet is really, really helpful through the tissue of the back side of the body. So there's a back fascial line. Fascia is the kind of more superficial connective tissue, which means it literally connects everything on the back of the body. And it starts right here where the toes are tucked under, and it goes all the way up through the back of the body, all the way up to the forehead. So as you stretch out this fascia sheath underneath here, there's a connection all the way through that line. Okay. Lean forward, point the toes, and sort of tap out the top of the feet there. Okay, step the feet up towards the top of the mat, roll all the way on up to stand, and then we'll come to the wall. So now on the wall, we'll stretch out the calf. So we'll go up that fascial sheath a little bit more. And to do that, step 1 foot forward with the toes up on the wall. If you have more mobility, try to really increase the angle of that ankle. And then rooting down through the heel, begin to lean forward a little bit. You need to play around with how the legs are bending or straightening. For me, the more I can press the heel down and really pull the thigh up through the hip, I'm starting to feel the calf open up a little bit more. Kind of rock your foot on the wall left and right. And this will confirm for you whether, how the bones are sort of placed. So if you wanted to press straight down through the center of the heel, where would that be? Okay, go ahead and step that foot back and take the other side. Okay, play around until you get sensation through the calf. You might feel it more on the inside or the outside of the calf. It's going to be different depending on your own personal individual constriction. But you can play around with sort of rocking the weight in the forefoot, which will just slightly rearrange the relationship of the bones in the feet to the ankle to the shins. And this way you know you're really getting exposure to a lot of different areas. Okay, go ahead and step off the wall there. You can take a quick top of foot stretch by just pressing into the wall, pointing one toe behind you, stretching out through the front of the leg, and doing that on the other side. We're getting into our really big reboot move here, and I like to use the wall for this. So you can come to face where the wall is off on your right-hand side, and the wall in this scenario is just for balance. We want to start with a neutral spine here. So one of the reasons why sometimes our legs and our hips and our low back hurts a lot is because our brain doesn't know how to move these things separately. So take your hands onto the front of your hips, rock your pelvis forward and backward like we did on the floor. And like we tried to find a neutral pelvis on the floor, see if you can try to find one in the standing position. And if you need to do something different with your knees, like bend them, then you can do that in service of getting the pelvis neutral. Slide your hands up to your lower rib cage. Pull your lower rib cage in toward itself and then up away from the pelvis so that you get longer through the middle of your back. And now slide your hands up to the back of your head. Gently pull your head up and back. It wants to sit right on top of the shoulders. Good job. Taking the right hand to the wall here. This is even going to feel like a lot because your right leg really needs to use its muscles to hold you as you lift your left knee up in front. Good, okay, the tendency here is going to be to scoop the pelvis forward and hike the left side up to the armpit. Resist both of those things. And hold your pelvis in place with your right buttock. The goal is to dissociate the leg from the pelvis. So the pelvis does not move, the leg does. As you start to open it over to the left, maybe it only moves a couple of inches. Good job. Now we're gonna push through the left foot back behind us as we take the left knee down. That's it, good. Use the left buttock, the left glute. So you're pushing through that left foot back behind you with the knee bent. Yeah, there you go. So the knee stays the same amount bent. And now we're gonna bring the left knee forward and up in front of the body. So these are big hip rotations. Here we go. We're gonna open the left knee out to the left. Push through the left foot as you bring the knee back behind you. There you go. And then bring the left knee forward up through the front of the body. Okay, so open the left knee up to the left. Okay, keep it out this far. Push the left foot back on an angle. There you go. Yeah, push back. There you go. Bringing it back behind you. Yes, there you go. And then now bring the left knee forward and up in front of the body. Yeah, so it's like a big circle. One more time. Open up to the left. Good. Push through the knee behind you. Now you're getting your hamstring and your glute. Good. Now bring the left knee up in front. Good job. Go ahead and take that left foot down to the ground. See how you feel here. My right bottom feels really on fire because it was working a lot to hold me. Okay, could have done it this way first so you could see where we were going. He had no idea what we were doing before we started doing this. Okay, so here we go.
It's good practice for you too.
I know, yeah, and trying to be like, what are words? So pelvis is upright, so are the ribs, so is the head. And now we're trying to dissociate the leg from the pelvis because that's what hip movement is. It's either the leg moving in the pelvis or the pelvis moving over the leg. So here we're moving it in the socket. Keep the pelvis where it is. Bring the right knee up in front. The wall is right here for balance. We're going to open the right knee out to the right. Maybe it only goes a few inches. We're really trying to stay strong in our standing body. Now we're going to push through the right foot behind us using the glute, using the hamstring, holy crap. And then we're gonna bring the right knee up in front of the body. So all of this trying to hold the pelvis nice and still, opening the right knee out to the right, pushing through the right foot so that the knee tracks down and behind the body, bringing the right knee back up in front of the body in deflection. So here we go, opening it out to the right, Pushing through the foot, getting the glute to turn on, and bringing the right knee back up in front. One more time. Good job. We're going to bring that right foot down in front of us, and then wouldn't you know it, we actually have the same thing in the opposite direction. So just for the sake of getting the muscle systems to turn on and off at the same kind of timing, let's do the left side. Right hand on the wall. Okay. Good. Bring the right knee up in front, or sorry, the left knee up in front of the body, right? Okay, so make sure that the low back is in neutral and try to get the right leg to really stand strong, press down, and use the right bottom to hold the pelvis here. We're gonna push the left foot back to begin with. Now keep the foot back as you start to lift the left knee out to the left and forward, and it's gonna finish the circle in front. So you're pushing through that left foot back, really using the hamstring and the bottom to lift that left knee up. Really getting right into that hip crease. We're gonna do this 2 more times. If anything is too intense for you, then do a smaller range of motion. Good, and really keep that knee bend strong through the whole cycle as if you were holding a tennis ball in the crook of your knee. Whew, good job. So taking that left foot down, beautiful, turning to the side, wow. Really flossing out the joint here. Here we go, right knee travels up in front. Give yourself a second to build the pose from the left leg all the way up through the torso. Now push through the right foot as the knee tracks back. Keep that foot back as you start to lift that right leg out and forward. Knee tracks in front, push through the foot, keeping the glute and the hamstring really working here as the right leg knee lifts out and forward. 2 more times. I'm really trying to get that pelvis out of the equation. It's gonna move. It 100% will move. So don't expect yourself to be perfect, but do aim for more precision in each repetition. To this last one, go ahead, take that right foot down. Good job. Yeah, I mean, how do you feel? Yeah, okay. Let's come to the top of the mat. And in the top of the mat, so we stretched through the fascial lining on the back. Then we did our hip rotations and got really active here. So now step the feet a little bit wide, heels in, toes out. Take the hands onto the front of the hip crease and aim to sandwich them between your pelvis and your thighs as you slide into a happy squat. So you're getting super deep here. You can rest your elbows on your thighs, or if you want to go a little bit lower, you can have hands onto the floor. Whatever feels accessible to you. You want to feel your buttocks stretch here. That means that the top of your pelvis is lengthening towards your armpits, if you can even feel what that means. And then the bottom of your pelvis is anchoring down towards your heels. Good job. Let's heel toe the feet underneath the hips. Step the right foot back, tap the knee down, and now use the legs, squeeze the legs into the pelvis to float the upper body into a low lunge. Take your hands onto your right bottom. Remind it that this is what its job is. Remember when you moved your knee down and back, how much work your bottom had to do in your right hamstring? See if you can corral a little bit of that. Fly the hands back, lift up through the head. Good job. Taking the hands down, lift the right knee up and turn open to the side of the mat, all 10 toes. Bend the right knee, stretch the inside of the left leg. Turn towards the back, tap the left knee down to the ground. Scoop the legs into the hips as you rise up. Left fist into left bottom, remind it that that's its job. Its job is to pull the leg back so you don't just rely on leverage here. Fly the hands back and down as you lift Up through the chest, up through the head. Yes, beautiful. Okay, take the hands down, keep the legs strong into the hips. Lift the left knee, turn all 10 toes open to face the side of the mat, long in the torso as you bend the left knee, side lunge. Stretch the inside of the right leg. Good job. Turn forward towards the front leg. Keep the back leg lifted, smush it back a little bit. So you're pressing back through that right heel, bending into the left knee a little bit, stretching long through the torso. If your hands need to be up on something higher, please do that, onto blocks or some sofa. Take the hands on the inside. One more time, we're gonna straighten the legs, bend the right leg, toes facing the long edge. And here we go over the back leg. Supported lunge. With the left knee lifted, left heel pushes back. Really sitting into that right leg, feeling the legs into the hips and the torso elongating forward. Hands to the inside of the feet, turning all 10 toes to face the long edge of the mat, bend into the left knee, side lunge, stretching the inside of the right leg. Straighten both legs, track the hands underneath to center. Again, they can be lifted up on something higher if that feels better for you. Feel the inside of the legs lifting away from the floor as you forward fold. Again, thinking of the buttocks actually stretching. So your back dimples, magnetize your back dimples toward your low back dimples toward your armpits, and your sitting bones towards your heels. It's hard to feel your sitting bones ground towards your heels because they're the highest point in the pose. But feel that there's muscular activity, like the muscles are trying to anchor them towards your heels. Good job. Soften a little bit left to right. And then we'll bring one knee down, coming down to the ground, and all the way down into the back. Set your torso here, like we did for our dead bug pose, where pelvis is in neutral, low ribs pull down and in, chest is open, and the back of the neck is nice and long. Figure 4 the right foot over the left knee, flex the toes back, and lift into a figure 4. So play around here, especially if you don't feel a ton of sensation at first. The goal would be for most people to feel the stretch in the outside of the right hip. We don't want to feel any strain or tug on the back of the neck or the shoulders. Maybe a little bit of work in the abdomen is appropriate to stabilize everything. Playing around here until you start to feel a little bit of a sensation. You want the sensation of stretching to always feel like it's in a really meaty part of the muscle, never too close to a bone. So if you're feeling this all through the outside of that right hip, that's about right. Let's release and relax that down to the floor. Reestablish yourself as you come into the other side. Figure 4ing the left foot. Flexing the foot could be appropriate, pointing the toes could be appropriate. There's a lot of different ways to play around here. So give yourself a couple of moments. I tend to feel the best when things are pretty active, but you might be different. Okay, let's go ahead, release and relax that down to the floor. Stepping the feet wide and windshield wipering to the right and to the left. If it feels good to rest on one side, let the knees track over to the right first. And feeling this on the opposite side of the hip, the front of the left hip. Hopefully you're not feeling it in your left knee or your left ankle. You'd really want to be feeling a nice stretch along the whole front of the left leg and hip, maybe even lower abdomen. And you got to get that space long. You got to feel all of those points lengthen away from each other. Bringing the knees up through center, letting them track over to the left. Same thing. And sometimes I feel like a sharp pain in my knee here, and that just tells me, okay, well, it's not getting into the right spot, so I need to readjust my pelvis. I need to make sure that everything on the front of the body is anchoring towards the floor. That's going to give me the length that I need to really elongate the right knee down away from the right frontal hip bone, and then lengthen the right ribs away from that side of the pelvis as well. And coming back up through center, we'll find our final resting pose, Shavasana. Set yourself up in any position that feels comfortable, including just getting up off the floor and lying down on the couch for a few moments. End your practice here if you'd like, or begin to gently move in your fingers and your toes. Perhaps next rocking your head left and right. Working your way into a full body stretch. Staying soft as you roll over onto one side. And then using that free hand to come on up to a seat. You can sit in a comfortable cross-legged position, or if you'd like and your hips feel a little bit more open, you can sit in more of a pinwheel-like shape, also called 90-90. If you're in your 90-90, you might alternate and switch your sides. If you're not already there, meeting in a cross-legged position. I hope you learned a little bit more about your hips today, that these concepts made sense and you feel like you got something that you can now apply every day to help your legs and your hips and your low back feel and work a whole lot better. All right, I hope you feel wonderful, and I'll see you here soon. Have a wonderful day.